so that once you understand that, then naturally you are learning a lot about the millets in this training course. So you can relate this, how you can put this concept into the millets. Okay. I hope the the slides are moving.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So let me start with this basic question. What is food? It's a very simple question. Everyone knows what is food. So you may be thinking why I am asking this question, right? So it is a noun. The plural is foods. So the dictionary meaning says any nutritious substance that people or animal eat or drink or that plants absorb in order to maintain life and growth. Okay. And the Wikipedia says food is any substance. Food is any substance consumed by an organism for nutritional support. It is usually of plant, animal, or fungal origin and contains essential nutrients such as carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, and minerals. So the basic term in both the definitions is nutrition. Okay. So now the second question is whether our food systems have been designed to supply the required nutrients what the human body needs. So the simple answer is no, because all our food must come from the agricultural systems. There is no other way that you can get food. Okay, of course, some small school-going boys who are not exposed to the agriculture or field conditions, they may say that yeah, food is available in the supermarket, because previously one small boy, when I asked, he told yes, food is available in the supermarket. So they doesn't know really where from it comes. Okay, but we all grown-up people with exposure to agriculture, we know that all our food has to come from the agricultural systems. Okay. But mostly our agricultural systems have been designed in such a way that they focus on the increased productivity and profitability for farmers and agricultural industries. Okay. And they were never explicitly designed to promote the human health, because we always believe in one thing. What? Health comes from the pharmacy, not from the food. Okay. Because whenever you are not well, okay, consult a medical practitioner, go to the pharmacy, get the medicine, and you will get the health. So that is what our basic understanding is, but that is wrong actually. Okay. So the health must come from the food, what we eat, not from the pharmacy, right? So according to World Health Organization, the human bodies, the human body requires 49 known essential nutrients for sustaining the human life. Okay, so they are broadly classified into 6 components: water and energy. So the energy provider is carbohydrate, you must be knowing, and water is also one of the nutrients. So many of you may be thinking how water has become a nutrient. No, water is also a nutrient for sustaining the human life, and the lack of availability of clean drinking water or safe drinking water is a problem in many of the semi-arid regions, including India, and more so in the many African countries, right? So water is also a nutrient. So from today onwards, those who are not aware, please consider that water is also one of the nutrients which is essential for sustaining the human life. Then next comes the proteins, which are the source of amino acids. So many essential and non-essential amino acids are there. Then the lipids, fats, the fatty acids. So there are also many fatty acids are there, and the most important is linoleic acid and linolenic acid. And then macro elements like sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, sulfur, etc. And then micro elements. So a number of micro elements are also essential, like starting from iron, zinc, copper, manganese, etc. So the classification macro and micro is not based on their importance. Okay, the both are important. Both macro elements as well as micro elements are important. The why this classification is because of the quantum in which they are required. So the macro elements, they are required in a little bit more quantity than the micro elements. But it is not that the micro elements are less important. That is why they are called micro. Okay, please keep that in mind. And after that, the 6th components, the vitamins, the both fat soluble as well as water soluble vitamins like A, D, E, K, which are the fat soluble, then C and the series of B vitamins, which are water soluble. So these 6 major components are essential for sustaining the human life. Now the malnutrition rises both under and over nutrition, because you know that undernutrition is a problem in low income group as well as in the poor countries, whereas overnutrition leading to obesity, the urban problem. Now, of course, nowadays, not only in urban conditions, even the rural conditions also. So both under as well as overnutrition it is the result of dysfunctional food systems that cannot supply the nutrients and health promoting factors. Okay. And within malnutrition, there is another term called hidden hunger. This is actually the malnutrition arising due to shortage of deficiency of micro elements. Okay. So hidden hunger means the malnutrition caused by deficiency of vitamins and minerals, and the affected people do not show the physical symptoms usually associated with the hunger and malnutrition. Okay, so there will not be apparent overt symptoms which are usually associated with malnutrition, but still the person will be suffering from the micronutrient malnutrition. That is why it is called hidden hunger. Yeah, this is our food pyramid as per the Indian Council of Medical Research. So it is put in a pyramid shape, and here the lowermost items like it is constituted by the grains and milk, both the cereals, millets, and the pulses. So we have to consume it adequately. Okay. Then comes the fruits and vegetables. So here the statement is that eat liberally, means we have to liberally eat these components. Then comes the fat-rich component as well as the sugar-rich component like the processed products. Okay. So here the take-home message is eat moderately. Okay, you also need that because the fats are required for the metabolism of the many of the nutrients, especially the vitamins, etc. So you need to eat them only moderately, not more. And finally, the last component, it is actually the highly processed foods and the bakery items, which mostly carry only the carbohydrates and very rich source of the energy, but not any other nutrients. Okay, like ice creams or the burgers or many other things. Okay, so here you have to eat sparingly. Okay, as little as possible you have to eat. So along with this food system or the type of diet, you have to exercise regularly and be physically active for a healthy life. But you all know that our food pyramid is not like this. Fine. It is mostly turned down. We will be concentrating less on the grains, the milk, and fruits and vegetables. Of course, everyone has their own limitations, but we'll be mostly concentrating as the economic level improves. We concentrate more on the processed food products, the animal products, the fat-rich products, etc. Right? Yeah, coming to micronutrient malnutrition, I'm not going to bother you with the statistics because these statistics, this you can get from any website. If you spend time on searching for the micronutrient malnutrition or the deficiency, how severe it is, you can get these ideas. Okay, so it actually affects more than half of the developing world's population, or more than 2 billion people. Of course, this is a old estimate, almost 20 years back estimate. So now it must be more than 3 billion people are affected by the micronutrient malnutrition. Okay, and especially the children below 5 years, there is a lot of stunting, wasting. The stunting actually, the height to weight ratio, if it is impaired, if there is less height to the weight, it is called stunting. And wasting means the height will be normal, but the person will be thinned. So that is called wasting actually. Okay. And overweight, of course, because of I already told why it happens. Okay. So the malnutrition contributes the loss of almost 11% GDP in Asia and Africa. And the micronutrient malnutrition, it is globally considered as a food-related health problem because it is not the lack of food. The people will be eating sufficient food, but the lack of sufficient micronutrients in the food what you consume. So that is why it is called food-related health problem. Okay, and the most important in the world are three. That is vitamin A deficiency, then iron deficiency, and zinc deficiency. Okay? Nearly 2/3 of all the deaths of children associated with the nutritional deficiencies are mostly from the micronutrients. So this is as per the Global Nutrition Report of 2020. Okay, so you can find that here the most children with malnutrition live in Africa and Asia, as I already told. About 53% of the children in Asia and about 41% of the children in Africa. So they have means preschool children, means below 5 years children, they have the stunting, and about in Asia 70% of the children, and Africa 27% of the children, they are affected by I think something has got actually the iron deficiency and also the zinc deficiency. Next one. Yeah, this is the global prevalence of micronutrient deficiency. So you can find that most of the South Asian countries, as well as some countries in the China, as well as the Southeast Asian countries, and majority of the countries in the Africa, okay, they have very severe, means very high deficiency, more than 40 to 50% of the population deficient in the micronutrients. Okay, so this topic of biofortification, it is actually not required for people like you and me who have access to a wide variety of food items in our diet, and with the economic level we can choose our diet. But this is mainly required for poor people who are living in the arid and semi-arid tropics, who suffer most from the micronutrient deficiency, as they cannot afford a variety of food items in their diet. So whatever nutrients they need, it has to come from the staple grains which they eat, because the most of the income they spend on the staple grains only, and the staple grains itself should provide all the nutrients which they need. Yeah, this is the financial implications of I remove this 1 minute. Yeah, no, it is not going. Okay, fine. There is some issue with this actually. Okay, so this is a loss in GDP due to the malnutrition. So it is so the estimates are given here on the left side. So in India, it is around 12 billion US dollars is the loss due to the micronutrient malnutrition. And in many of the African countries, the loss may be less because of the less population. In India, it is high because of the higher population. Okay, so it is estimated that a $1 investment in improving any nutrition program, the nutritional status of the people, it actually have a direct or indirect benefit of $16. Okay, and you must be knowing about the SDG, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or the Millennium Development Goals. So there are a total 17 SDGs, and 12 out of the 17 SDGs, they have direct or indirect relation with the nutrition. And this micronutrient malnutrition, so every stage of the human body is getting affected, starting from the babies, then the child, the adolescents, then when such adolescents grow into adults, be it male or female, they are also getting affected. And the more so in case of pregnant women, and such pregnant women, when they they produce, when they reproduce, again, the babies are born micronutrient deficient with a low birth weight, higher mortality rate, etc. Anyway, I'm not going to the details because of the paucity of the time. And in elderly also, because of the lack of nutrition, there is increased morbidity, including the osteoporosis and the mental impairment, as well as a higher mortality rate. And three important micronutrient deficiencies are that of vitamin A, iron, and zinc, as I already told. So vitamin A, you all know why it is important, because it is important for vision, immune response, then epithelial cell growth, bone systems, reproduction, embryonic development, etc. And the vitamin A deficiency, the very common symptoms are the night blindness, as well as the color blindness, then irreversible blindness. And it is a leading cause of preventable blindness in children, leading to blindness in almost 2.5 to 5 lakh children each year. This is as per the WHO figures. Okay, and in India also, almost it is estimated that 36% of the population suffer from the vitamin A deficiency. And iron, you all know, it is a component of the hemoglobin. So the anemia, the most direct symptom of iron deficiency is anemia, and it is affecting about 800 million women and children, and half of the cases are due to iron deficiency alone, because the anemia can be due to other factors also, but almost 50% of the anemia cases are due to iron deficiency alone. Okay, and it is estimated in India that about 79% of the preschool children and more than half of women are anemic, and mostly it is because of the iron deficiency, right? And zinc is actually a cofactor in many of the enzymes, and it is involved in DNA, RNA synthesis, and the enzymes which are involved in cell growth and differentiation, as well as the gene expression. And the deficiency mainly leads to impaired growth, then immune dysfunction and mortality, and adverse pregnancy outcome, and abnormal neurobehavioral developments. Okay, and it is estimated that nearly 50% of the human population is affected by the inadequate zinc in their diet, and 1/3 of the world population is at high risk, live in the low-income countries, and about 8 lakh children death worldwide is attributed to zinc deficiency. May not be zinc deficiency alone, but it is compounded due to the other micronutrient deficiencies also. Yeah, so every 1 in 2 kids who are micronutrient deficient, so including iron, zinc, and vitamin A, putting them at risk of a weak immune system. So you all know that how important the immune system requirement for the good immune system is after the COVID, the pandemic. So about 1 in 2 means almost 50% of the kids, they lack the immune system because of the micronutrient deficiency, and 2 in 3 women, they are also micronutrient deficient because of the lack of iron, zinc, and folic acid, putting them at risk of weak immune system, slow growth, and low productivity. And you all know that the climate is changing. Okay, so the changing climate also has some adverse impact on the grain yield, that everyone knows. It is estimated that about 5 to 10% there will be drop in the grain yield in the future due to changing climate. And the changing climate also affects the nutritional quality of the crop. Okay, and once the grain yield level goes down, the supply will be going down. So naturally, there will be impairment in the supply demand, and once the demand increases, naturally it leads to higher prices. Okay, so the poor people who cannot afford more food grains, they start consuming less and less grains because of the higher price, and this will also adversely impact their nutrition, because as I already told, the poor people cannot afford the many food items in their diet. So most of their income goes to only purchase of the staple grains, and once the consumption of the staple grain itself goes down, along with the poor quality of the staple grain which they purchase and consume, so this is going to have a cascading effect on the human health and productivity. So under such conditions, the biofortified crop varieties with micronutrient rich grains could offer a healthier solution, where the crop nutritional quality will decline due to climate change. Okay, now having said that, let us see what is meant by biofortification, the process of biofortification. So it is actually a process of breeding, the development of a micronutrient dense staple crop variety using the best traditional breeding practices and modern biotechnology. So wherever the traditional breeding practices are not able to produce a variety with high micronutrients, then we may be seeking the help of the tools of modern biotechnology. Okay, so this is different from the two commonly heard terms, the fortification and supplementation. Okay, so the fortification means the addition of an ingredient to food to increase the concentration of a particular element. The classical example is the iodized salt. Okay, then vitamin A, D, margarine, and nowadays, if you go to the supermarkets, you can find a lot of the fortified products. In each and everything, there will be some fortification, and even in the cookies and the biscuits, there will be label that it is fortified biscuits, etc. So a lot of products are available in the market. And second terminology, which is often confused with the biofortification, is supplementation. Okay, so supplementation actually refers to the addition of an element to the diet to make up for the insufficiency. Okay, so the most common examples are the vitamin capsules or the mineral capsules. Okay, and there were the regular supplementation programs run by the government of India, like the weekly iron folic acid supplementation. Since 2012, it is going on for the school adults and boys and girls, and the vitamin A supplementation program since 2006 for children below 5 years, means preschool children. Okay, so both these fortification as well as supplementation, they are short-term public health interventions because they are most appropriate for acute cases of micronutrient deficiency. Okay, for prolonged cases or for chronic cases of micronutrient deficiency, this fortification and supplementation cannot be adopted because they require good infrastructure, because you know that all these fortified products, they need good processing facilities. Then the supplementation, again, the capsules, the pharma industry has to play a role in that. So they require good infrastructure, then the sophisticated processing technologies, then the product control, then the purchasing power. That is most important because we are talking this topic in terms of the people who cannot afford. Okay, so all the fortified products, you know, the supplements like vitamin supplements or the mineral supplements, they are costly. So the poor people who have less purchasing power, they cannot afford these interventions. And also the access to the markets and healthcare system. So you know that most of these products, they are confined to only to the urban area in the supermarkets. If you go to rural area, you may not be able to find all these fortified products. And also the people who are living in the rural areas or remote rural areas, they will not be having access to the healthcare system as well as the pharmacies, right? And there are other approaches also, like the agronomic fortification. I will come slightly later. This is through soil and foliar fertilization, but this is not feasible, and also it is costly, and the benefits of this agronomic fortification in different crops are not well proved. Okay, so whatever we grow and eat, it should contain more micronutrients so that the health comes from the farm, not from the pharmacy. So initially I told we all believe that health comes from the pharmacy, not from the farm. But this concept should change so that we should eat only the micronutrient rich grains, the food. Okay, so health should come from the farm, not from the pharmacy. Yeah, this is just another pictorial representation of whatever I have already told. So the dietary diversification, about all this, the fortification or supplementation, biofortification, the first and foremost important strategy is dietary diversification, okay, which can be done in-house as well as within the market, okay. That is the most appropriate because you have to have a variety of food items in your diet. Okay, but you know that it is costly and everyone cannot afford this. Okay, that is why we are going for other approaches. And the fortification, it takes place in the factory, and I already told it needs the food processing and quality control, etc. Then the supplementation that takes place in the through the pharmacy. So these are called dietary supplements, and you know that you cannot take for a long time all these dietary supplements, right? So the dietary diversification, as I already told, there is a question of affordability. So it is a question mark for the poor people. Then fortification, it is the commercial one. And the supplementation, it is actually the medical intervention. Okay. So compared to all these three, the biofortification, which forms the part of food matrix itself. Okay. So whatever you eat, if it itself can provide the required nutrients, then that will be the most sustainable strategy. So among these four approaches, the biofortification will be the most appropriate as well as most sustainable strategy to address the micronutrient malnutrition, especially in the poor people. And the process of biofortification, it has some advantages. Like it implicitly targets the low-income households. Already I have told in the different slides actually. So it capitalizes on the regular daily intake of the staple food. Okay, so people who spend most of their income only to purchase the staple food. So it targets such people because the staple grains itself contain more nutrients. Then it can reach the poor in the rural areas with poor access to markets and or healthcare systems. I told. And it is actually a one-time investment. Means once you invest in developing a biofortified variety, afterwards you can continuously grow these biofortified varieties like any other variety or like any other hybrid which the farmers are growing. Okay, so the seeds fortify themselves, so it can be shared also. So there is no additional cost or there is no recurring cost each year. Okay, so the cost of seed production and deployment, that only is involved, which is common for all the varieties, irrespective of whether it is biofortified or not. So even if the variety is biofortified one, so you are not going to incur, or the farmer is not going to incur any extra cost on that. So in that way, it is cost effective, and it is sustainable in the longer term because the varieties will continue to be grown and consumed year after year. And there are certain criteria also, which is mainly for the scientist who is developing a biofortified variety, because the crop productivity must be maintained. You all know that the farmers can be attracted only if a new variety or a new hybrid has yield advantage, yield superiority. If it is poor than the existing varieties, even if it is good in micronutrients, you cannot attract the farmers because every farmer is profit motivated. So we can't say that you should grow a variety which is having less yield. Okay, so a biofortified variety, there should not be a compromise on the yield. It has to be high yield. So the crop productivity must be maintained. The micronutrient enrichment level must have significant impact on the human health. Okay, so when you are increasing the micronutrient content in the grains, it is not a marginal one. There has to be substantial increase in the levels so that it really helps in improving the micronutrient status of the consumer. Okay, and the enriched level must be relatively stable. Means if it is unstable from environment to environment or from location to location or year to year, then also it is not going to be a successful strategy. So the enriched levels must be stable, and bioavailability in the enriched lines must be tested. So what is bioavailability? I will come slightly later because it is also one of the important factor. I think in the previous session, after the previous session, some people were asking about this also, bioavailability. So bioavailability of the enriched lines must be tested, and the consumer acceptance above all, not only the farmers, even the consumers, they have to accept. Means there should not be any change in the taste or cooking quality of this biofortified varieties. Then only you can push this the consumers. Yeah, so these are the two common strategies followed. So already I told about the agronomic fortification. It is either through soil fertilization or through foliar spray of the iron sulfate or zinc sulfate. But it involves cost because apart from the recommended dose of fertilizers, you have to go for additional micronutrient fertilizers, and also the efficacy of this technique is not well proved in many of the cases. And whatever preliminary studies in many of the crops are there, it says that this strategy works only if there is deficiency of this particular iron or zinc in the soil. If there is no deficiency, then they are not going to improve the grain micronutrients, even if you apply extra dose of iron sulfate or zinc sulfate, or if you go for a spray of iron sulfate or zinc sulfate on the crop. Okay, so in that way, it is not well proved strategy. And the second one is the genetic biofortification, means through the process of the breeding. Okay, so it has different steps. I'm not going to the details because it may not be directly useful for you. So this is mainly required for the person who is actually interested in developing a biofortified variety. So like any other breeding activity, it starts from the germplasm evaluation. You have to see how much variability is available in the germplasm already. And once you identify good variability, then you have to choose your donors, and you have to use it in crossing program to introgress that trait into the line of your interest. Means the elite varieties which you already have, which are high yielding, so that has to be introgressed with genes from the donors, which can impart more micronutrients in the grains. Once this is done, it has to go for the testing, the different levels of field testing, just like any other varieties, okay, before release. If there is no sufficient variability in the germplasm, then naturally you have to go for other techniques like induced mutagenesis to create variability wherever it is possible. But as such, there are not many examples where you have increased the grain micronutrient content through mutation breeding. Then other biotechnological approaches like genomics or transgenic approaches can also be tried, but so far no commercial variety has been developed through these techniques. Yeah, these are the steps I already told, just like any breeding activity for any trait. So identification of genetic variability with the range that can influence the human health, then introgressing this variation into the high yielding, means the elite varieties, the stress tolerant genotypes, processing acceptable end-use quality attributes already, then testing the stability of micronutrient accumulation across the target environments through multi-location testing, then large-scale deployment of seed of improved cultivars to farmers once it is released. Okay, so the biofortification actually requires a multidisciplinary research approach. So there needs to be direct linkage between agriculture researchers who are working in the respective research institutes, then the various specialists like the nutritionists who are outside these agriculture research institutes, and the public health officials, the sociologists, the political scientists, to see what is the impact of these biofortified varieties on the health, etc. Then political scientists for advocating the policies to the government so that these biofortified varieties or the hybrids are made more popular and more reachable to the farmers as well as to the consumers, and the food technologists and the economists to see the economic impact both in field as well as on the health. Okay, so it needs the direct involvement of many scientists involved in many activities, not only the plant breeders, to say. Okay, so there is a common term called Harvest Plus. Many of you must have heard. So this is actually an initiative of the CGIAR, the Consultative Group on International Agriculture Research. So it is coordinated by the International Center for Tropical Agriculture, CAIT, Cali, Colombia, and the International Food Policy Research Institute. So here the aim is, it is actually a network of the different global institutions and scientists for improving the human nutrition by breeding new varieties of staple food crops consumed by the poor people that have higher levels of micronutrients through a process called biofortification. Or in other words, it is simply to develop improved biofortified varieties in the target crops. Okay, so there were different phases of this Harvest Plus program. Initially, it started in 2004 to 2008, where 6 crops like rice, wheat, maize, beans, cassava, and sweet potato were targeted. And in the second phase, some more crops like including our sorghum, then pearl millet, barley, bananas, etc. Were added. And in the third phase, they actually targeted the delivery aspects, means once you develop a biofortified variety, how to popularize it, how to reach it to the actual farmers so that they start cultivating it and start getting the benefit. So I'm not going to the details because there are a long procedure of how this Harvest Plus has played a crucial role starting from the release of first biofortified crop variety that it is called orange fleshed sweet potato OFSP in Mozambique, in Africa, later in Nigeria and many other countries, which has helped in improving the vitamin A status of the consumers. So far, many varieties have been released which are having high iron, zinc as well as vitamin A through the process of Harvest Plus. So the common examples are iron bean, then iron pearl millet, which is for India also, then vitamin A or sweet potato, as I already told, most of the African countries, then vitamin A enriched the cassava, again for the African countries, then vitamin A maize, both for India as well as many African countries, then the zinc wheat, zinc rice, and zinc maize. Yeah, so so far 293 Harvest Plus facilitated crop varieties have been released in total 30 countries, mainly for these three elements like iron, zinc, and vitamin A. And it is estimated that about 17.3 million farming households grew and ate biofortified crops in 2022. And this is the spread of these biofortified varieties in different countries, the different the crops. Sorry for this picture, not very clear. And it is believed that about approximately 86 to 87 million total beneficiaries in farming households across Asia, Africa, and in the Latin American countries, they got benefit out of these biofortified crops. And it is targeted that by 2030, 7 years down the line, it should reach 1 billion, means from 86.5 million people, it should reach 1 billion, means almost 1/7 to 1/8 of the entire world population must get benefited from this biofortified varieties. Okay, so this is the product of Harvest Plus, the impact of Harvest Plus in India. So they have the iron pearl millet. You must have heard about the variety name called Dhanashakti. This is the first biofortified variety released in India in pearl millet in 2014 in Maharashtra, later all over India. So then one more hybrid called Shakti 1201. These are the two first one variety as well as one hybrid released in pearl millet, which are having higher iron content of almost 60 to 70 ppm, and it provides up to 80% of the daily iron needs of the consumers. And another success story is the zinc rich wheat. Two varieties which are developed under the Harvest Plus program is BHU3 and BHU6 by the Banaras Hindu University. It provides almost 50% of the daily zinc needs of the people who consume this. Okay, so at present, the Harvest Plus is active in almost 5 states. The Rajasthan, mainly for the biofortified pearl millet, then Maharashtra also biofortified pearl millet. Then in UP, Bihar, and Jharkhand, it is mainly for the popularizing the biofortified wheat varieties. Now, coming to the Indian requirement, the recommended dietary allowance, I have listed here the iron requirement, the zinc requirement, the vitamin A. So I'm not going to the details because these you can get from any standard textbooks of ICAR-IIMR, how much is actually required. Okay. Now, this is more important. My healthy food plate. Okay, so this actually gives what is the actual quantity of the different food components like the cereals, pulses, milk or curd, then vegetables and fruits, then the nuts and seeds and fats and oils a healthy person should consume in a day. Okay, so you can find that. So each component will provide you calories, along with calories, the other required nutrients, both macro as well as micronutrients. Okay, so I think I will not explain this because it will take more time. So for people consuming completely cereal based diet with low quality protein, because it is generally the cereal proteins are low in quality compared to the animal proteins. So the protein requirement is roughly about 1 gram per kg per day. So that is a thumb rule. So if your weight is around 65 kgs, so you need to consume about 65 grams of protein, which has to come from some part from the cereals, some part from the milks, pulses, okay, and some from nuts and seeds, right? So the cereal, legume, milk composition of the diet should be almost 3:1:2.5 for good protein quality. Okay, so this is as per the textbooks. But do we really follow this pattern of diet? I am doubtful. Almost 90 to 95% of the people, even the well-to-do people, rich people, may not be following exactly what is required or what is expected out of a healthy plate, right? Yeah, these are some statistics of micronutrient deficiency. Again, I don't want to go into the details because always the statistics are very scary, and you can find these statistics from any report of ICMR or the National Health Survey, which is taking place every 5 years or every 10 years. Let us come to millets, because I think I have already taken some more than 35-40 minutes. So a little bit about millets also. So you all know that millets are harbingers of evergreen revolution because they are climate change compliant, and they are the most potent crops. They can sustain the livelihood under changing climate, as well as they can ensure health, as well as they can help in sustaining the rural economy, and they are the sources of food, feed, fodder, biofuel, and alcohol, right? And these are the nutritional contents of the different millets. I am not going to the details because I am sure there must be some other lecture by the biochemist who will be telling in detail about this in the nutritional aspects. Yeah, this is a range of the different nutrient parameters in different millets. Again, I will skip this. So this is the mineral profile as well as the vitamin profile of the different millets. So only one thing which I want to stress here is each millet will be good for one or the other factor. It is not that every millet is good for every nutrient. So kindly keep that in mind, because many people think that, oh, millets means they are good for everything. It is not so. Okay. See, for example, finger millet. Finger millet is a very rich source of the calcium. It is almost you can say 3 times the calcium content of milk, and almost 30 to 40 times of the calcium content which the polished rice carries. Okay, it is hardly 10 to 15. I think how much it is rice? Yeah, it is less than 10. Okay, so it is more than 30 to 40 times of the calcium content of the milled rice which we usually consume. So finger millet is a very rich source of the calcium, and similarly, if you see pearl millet, it is a very good source of iron and zinc. It is almost the content is 50 to 60 ppm, means milligrams per kg. This is actually 6.42 milligram per 100 gram. And for zinc also, it is a rich source. And other millets like proso millet and little millet also, they have contribution in different nutrients, right? And the health benefits, I don't have to tell, you all know. And I think there must be some special lecture on the health benefits of millets, so I can skip this. Okay. And yeah, this is one thing which I want to spend a little bit of time. So bioavailability. Okay, as I already mentioned previously, the bioavailability of the minerals in the biofortified varieties must be tested. Why? Because though the grains will be having higher content of iron and zinc, but the bioavailability in the cereals as well as pulses is low because of many other nutritional factors. So you can see that in case of, for example, here, I think sorghum and pearl millet I have given. So this is a study from CFTRI Mysore, which was published in way back in 2007. So it says hardly 5 to 7% is the bioavailability of iron. So whatever is available only in the grain, but only 5 to 7% of this will be available to the human body. And similarly, zinc bioavailability also, at the time it was estimated that around 5 to 6%, but now they say, okay, zinc availability is slightly better than the iron, so it is up to 20%, but whereas iron bioavailability is less only. Okay, so why it is happening? Because there are many other factors. In the previous lecture, at the end of the lecture, somebody asked about the anti-nutritional factors. Okay, so we know that these crops, they also carry some anti-nutritional factors like phytic acid, then polyphenols, tannins, etc. Though we no more call them anti-nutritional. Why? Because they are having beneficial role in reducing the oxidative stress, because they can bind with the free oxygen radicals. I think the biochemist will explain it better than me. So the phytic acid also, it actually helps in reducing the oxidative stress, that is which is leading to the aging of the cells. Okay, so similarly, the polyphenols, tannin, etc., they also have functional role. That is why we promote millets because of these components. So we actually nowadays don't call them as anti-nutritional, but still they have a role in deciding the bioavailability, because many of these factors, they reduce the bioavailability of minerals. Okay, and these anti-nutrients are commonly removed by different processing techniques like decortication, then malting, fermentation, roasting, flaking, even the normal soaking also reduces some of the these anti-nutrient factors, so that the bioavailability will be increased. And reduction in the anti-nutrients during plant growth and development is therefore a prominent strategy. Okay, so the ideal strategy will be to reduce these the anti-nutritional factors to a little bit, not completely, because I know I already told that they have a beneficial role. So we don't want a millet grain without any phytic acid or polyphenol or tannin, because they have their own beneficial role. So we can reduce a little bit so that it improves the bioavailability of the minerals. Okay, and this is a summary of the complexity of bioavailability. Okay, so if I start explaining this, it will take a lot of time, because the bioavailability is not so simple as I told in just 3 or 4 sentences. It is very complex, because it depends upon so many factors, not only what you eat, but it also depends upon what are the other food components you eat along with the grains, then the individual characteristics, and the processing, preparation, and so many factors, even the health status of the person, then the racial background, and so many factors, they decide the bioavailability. So I will just skip this, because it will take a lot of time if I start explaining this. And just a take-home message is, there are many promoters, because I already told the some of the anti-nutrient factors like polyphenols and phytate, they will reduce the bioavailability. But similarly, there are many factors which actually promote the bioavailability of minerals. Okay, so they are called the promoters of bioavailability. So some processing techniques like heat processing, germination, malting, which I already told, and there are some other components like the organic acids. Okay, the oxalic acid or the citric acid, it actually improves the bioavailability of many of the minerals. So a common example, many of you must be knowing why we put spices, or even a common example is squeezing of a piece of lemon over any food preparation. Okay, we may be thinking that, okay, this is just for improving the taste. Okay, so along with the improving the taste, it also has a role, because you know that the lemon has a citric acid, and citric acid is one of the factors which can help in improving the bioavailability. Okay, so there are many promoters which help in increasing the bioavailability. Some of you, if you are into the processing side, you can always think of this as an opportunity to enhance the bioavailability of minerals in your the millet-based products, so that you can always label that they have more bioavailability. Okay, so similar to the promoters, there are also some components like inhibitors, like polyphenols, phytates, I already told, and the insoluble dietary fiber. I think there was also a question previously that the resistant starch and the amylose, amylopectin, etc. So the insoluble dietary starch also, they bind with the mineral elements like iron, zinc, etc., and prevents their absorption. So thereby reduces the bioavailability. And the phytates, I already told, they also reduce the bioavailability of iron and zinc. Means they will bind with the cations like iron and zinc, and thereby they reduce the bioavailability. And excess calcium, it also found to be interfering with the iron and zinc absorption. Okay, so we have to reduce the inhibitors, and we have to increase the promoters, so that the bioavailability also increase in the millet grains. Okay, so from there I will come to the millets in the next maybe some 6-7 minutes, because already I'm crossing my time. So this is the pearl millet situation in India. You must be having a separate lecture on pearl millet, or you must have already undergone the separate lecture. So it is highly drought tolerant and warm season crop, you know, and more than 50% of the area is from a single state of Rajasthan alone, and almost the present area is about 7 to 8 million hectares all over the country. And we have different zones like the Rajasthan and some part of the northwestern Gujarat falls in the A1 zone, which is the most driest part, which has the maximum area under pearl millet. Then comes the A zone, then the B zone, which is the middle and mid and South India, which is most productive, because here most of the hybrids are grown with good management. And you also know that the pearl millet, apart from grains, it is also an excellent forage crop with a low HCN content, rich in protein and calcium, phosphorus, and other minerals. Right? Yeah, so I mentioned once that the availability of good variability is a prerequisite for developing any biofortified variety. Okay, so the ICAR under the aegis of Harish Plus, they started working on development of biofortified pearl millet varieties almost 2 decades back, and they found that a lot of variability for iron as well as zinc are available in the commercial hybrids also, and also in the germplasm. Okay, so significant variability was observed for iron, almost 100% variability, 50 to 120 milligram per kg for iron, and for zinc 46 to 87 milligram per kg. And both this iron and zinc, they have positive correlation. Okay, and they found that the Iniadi germplasm from Africa, it is actually having very high iron content, so it is a promising source. It can act as a donor source for imparting high iron and zinc in the commercial cultivar. So they used this particular germplasm very extensively initially to make selections, the population development, and also afterwards as a donor in development of variety. And they came up with the first variety ICTP 8203 FE10-2, which they released as which the Mahatma Phule Krishi Vidyapit MPK Virahuri released it as Dhanashakti in 2014, and later on it was released for many other states through our all India system. Okay, so initially it was released in 2012, and it was notified in 2014, and subsequently, as I told, it is recommended for many states, and still it is one of the variety which has better iron and zinc, and many farmers under rainfed conditions, they grow this Dhanashakti across India. And realizing the importance of biofortification, the Indian Council of Agriculture Research, they also started a consortia research platform for developing micronutrient enriched staple crops like rice, wheat, maize, sorghum, and pearl millet among the major cereals or millets. Then 2 small millets like finger millet and foxtail millet also. So these are the 7 crops which are targeted for improving the grain micronutrient content. So this program actually started in 2015, and then 2017 to 21 was the second phase, and now still it is continuing as a third phase with good funding from the Indian Council of Agriculture Research. So the traits of interest are improving the beta carotene, that is the precursor of vitamin A, then iron, zinc, then protein, folic acid, low phytate, phytase, and low gluten in different crops. Yeah, so apart from the research efforts of ICAR, and also there are other agencies like DBT and DST which also funded this biofortification program. So currently we have around more than 90 varieties released in different crops, improved for different nutrient components like starting from iron, zinc, then provitamin A, then protein also, lysine, tryptophan, vitamin A already I told, then vitamin C, anthocyanin. Many of the horticulture crops are also there. These are not from the cereals, but many of the horticulture crops which provide a good vitamin source. And erucic acid is actually in case of mustard, it is an anti-nutrition factor. So reduced erucic acid is one of the component in the biofortified variety. The glucosinolase, these are also reduced for enhancing the nutrition quality. Then oleic acid and linolenic acid, you must be knowing in the groundnut, 2 varieties have been released with the high OL ratio, means high oleic acid content to the linolenic acid, so that it is improving the health as well as it is having better shelf life compared to the normal groundnut oil. Yeah, so these are the varieties, about 21 varieties released by the Prime Minister during 2021 during the World Health World Food Day in October 2021. And among these crops, 3 varieties, 2 of finger millet and 1 of little millet, they were also released by the Prime Minister, which are improved for grain micronutrients. Yeah, this is the Dhanashakti variety, which I was telling, which has high iron content of 70 to 80 ppm and zinc of 43 ppm. And under our All India Coordinated Research Project on pearl millet, they have set the benchmarks for release of any variety or hybrid. Okay, so any variety or hybrid, only if it has more than 42 ppm iron, then only it will be released. Then more than 32 ppm of zinc, then only it will be released, no matter how better it is for yield content. Okay, so even if the yield is more than 10% or 20% than the existing varieties or hybrids, but if it is lacking the iron and zinc, then it will not be released. So that criteria they have set for the last 2-3 years, and nowadays whatever varieties as well as hybrids are released under pearl millet, they have better nutritional content for iron and zinc. Okay, so this early maturing Dhanashakti, it is adopted for Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan, Haryana, MP, means almost all the pearl millet growing states of the country. And this is another hybrid, HB 1200. So it has a high iron and zinc. This also is recommended for majority of the pearl millet growing states. Then HHB 299. This is adapted for Rajasthan, Gujarat, Haryana, Punjab, Delhi, etc. Then HHB 311. Another hybrid with very high iron and zinc. Then these are some other hybrids and varieties, hybrids like AHB 1269, then RHB 234 and RHB 233. So nowadays there are many hybrids. These are only a few hybrids I have listed here. And from pearl millet, I will come to the sorghum. And sorghum, this is the distribution of sorghum. As you know, the two states of Maharashtra and Karnataka and to some extent Rajasthan also, they share the maximum area of sorghum, mainly the Kharif as well as the Rabi sorghum. So fourth most important cereal consumed, though now the area has come down and also the consumption level has come down because of the availability. It is mostly consumed in the region in which it is cultivated. That is one advantage. So the three states, as I already told, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and the undivided Andhra Pradesh, they together constitute more than 80% of the total area as well as the production. And it is a staple crop of central and western Maharashtra and northern region of Karnataka and Telangana. And it is a cheap source of energy, protein, iron, and zinc. Next only to bajra, because bajra, because of the higher productivity as well as the high content of iron and zinc, so that is the most cheap source of iron and zinc. And after bajra or pearl millet, sorghum holds the second position. Okay, so it contributes more than 50% of the iron and zinc requirements in the low income group population who mainly consume sorghum in their regular diet. Okay, so this is a report from ICAR-IIMR, slightly old report, almost 10 to 12 years old. So this is a sorghum consumption pattern in the three major states of Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Andhra Pradesh. And they have found that in the low income households, the consumption is better compared to the high as well as middle income households in all the three states, both in rural areas as well as in urban areas. So sorghum biofortification will help in elevating the micronutrient malnutrition in the low-income rural and urban households in the major consuming regions. So the improving sorghum with high micronutrients is a feasible solution to address the micronutrient malnutrition in the major sorghum producing and consuming region. So these are some of our sorghum cultivars with not very high, but moderate levels of iron and zinc. But we have some special sorghum types like the Fule Rohini or Fule Madhur or Fule Panchami, which are suitable for special purpose like papad making or as a huda and all. So they have better iron and zinc compared to the normal, the grain sorghum, which are used for preparation of rotis. Okay, and this is the variability for grain, iron, and zinc. So this is our study where we found that a lot of variability is available in the land races as well as the germplasm. So we can very well use that in the development of high yielding varieties as well as hybrids. So the efforts are going on to develop sorghum varieties with high iron and zinc. Okay, and coming to small millets, so you know that these are all crops of antiquity. So many of these crops like little millet or foxtail millet, they were grown even before the introduction of high-yielding millets like pearl millet and sorghum from the African countries. So they are indigenous to India, and they are suitable for the drylands, and they provide the food and nutritional security of the disadvantaged people, mainly the people living in the remote areas as well as in the tribal region, because many of these crops are grown mostly by the tribals, except for the finger millet as well as the foxtail millet or other barnyard millet crop. And you all know that they require less water and they mature early and cultivate in scarce conditions, and they are highly resilient in adapting to the different ecological conditions, and they are climate change compliant crop, just like sorghum and pearl millet. And I already told three of the small millet varieties, two in finger millet called Indravati, and another one is Gira, CFME 1 and CFME 2. They are having high grain yield as well as high iron and zinc content or high protein content. They have been released for general cultivation in the states of Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Pondicherry, and Odisha in case of CFME 1. and CFMU2 is released for Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Odisha. And one little millet variety, this is from ICAR-IIMR, and it is called ICAR-IIMR. It has high grain yield compared to all the existing little millet varieties, and it is tolerant to insect pests as well as foliar disease, and it also has high protein content, almost 14 to 15% protein content, and very high iron content of 58 ppm. So this is recommended for the states of Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, and Pondicherry. Yeah, these are some the studies on the effectiveness of this pearl millet. As I told, the pearl millet varieties were released much earlier, almost 10 years back in the country. The studies have been conducted in the different age groups, mainly in the children, in the school going children, through midday meals and all, and to study the efficacy of this iron as well as the zinc enriched pearl millet and how they are helping in improving the health status of these people. So you can search the internet and you can find these studies. So it has been proved that the iron rich pearl millet, it significantly improved the iron status in children by 4 months compared with the control pearl millet. So within 4 months, the level of the iron in the hemoglobin could be raised by regular consumption of iron pearl millet compared to the normal pearl millet. Okay, so this is also another study where it is found that in the urban children, it is in the urban slum of Mumbai, they have conducted this study, and it is found that the food products developed out of these biofortified pearl millet varieties, they are well accepted by the children, just like any other pearl millet variety. So there is no difference in the acceptance or the taste of this iron enriched pearl millet. So it can be very well used for enhancing the micronutrient status of the target group. So this is another study which has shown that the study shows that eating iron-rich pearl millet benefits brain as well as the body. So not only improving the iron status in the blood, but it also helps in the cognitive development of these school-going children. So to conclude, so the biofortification offers a long-term and sustainable food-based solution for eliminating the micronutrient malnutrition, unlike fortification or supplementation. And it targets the resource-poor, micronutrient deficient people living in the remote rural areas of developing countries who don't have access to a variety of foods products in their diet, or who don't have good access to the medical benefits. Then it actually involves one-time investment to develop the seeds that fortify themselves. Means once you develop a biofortified variety, it can be grown like any other variety without any extra cost, and it requires a multidisciplinary research approach. As I already told, it is not only the job of the plant breeder. The plant breeder's role is restricted to only development of a variety, but once a biofortified variety is developed, it has to be taken to the farmers, to the consumers. So a variety of people has to be involved in the success of this strategy. And millet biofortification. So biofortification not only confined to the millets, even in other crops like rice, wheat, maize, the biofortification is taking place. And compared to those crops, in millets, it is more feasible strategy because, as I already told, millets are better in many of the micronutrients like iron and zinc. So you have a better base level for improving the iron and zinc status compared to rice or wheat or maize. So building upon what is already available in the millets through and further improvement through the classical breeding approaches can have better outcome in terms of millet biofortification. Okay, so these are some of the approaches. As I already told, among the audience, there may be some people who are involved in processing, some entrepreneurs will be there. So what is the opportunity for them from this biofortification? Okay, so you can always think of some of the FAOs, the clustering of the farmers for cultivation of biofortified cultivars. I think Dr. Sangappa will be telling you more about this, because already they have started some farmer groups which will be which is involved in cultivating the biofortified bajra variety, and thus sourcing of biofortified produce from the select farmers and development of a value chain. Many of you who are involved in development of fruit products. So you can, instead of sourcing the normal varieties, you can go for biofortified varieties from the farmers, so that your products will have better nutritional content compared to the products developed out of normal grains. Okay, so the development of food products using exclusively biofortified grains. So you may also label that these are the food products developed out of biofortified grains. Then the food product fortification also, you can think of blending biofortified millets, because I know many of you are developing products, not exclusively 100% millet. There will be wheat or some other components. So you can always blend them with the biofortified millet varieties, through which you can also increase the nutrient content of these products. Then improving the bioavailability, I already mentioned. So there is an opportunity to enhance the bioavailability through the addition of some promoters or through different food preparation techniques like food technological interventions. You can improve the bioavailability, which will help you in the labeling also, that it is so and so product is having higher bioavailability compared to the normal cookies or the biscuits or whatever it is. Then participation in the various government schemes. Okay, so there are a lot of government schemes, like you must be knowing about the Poshan Abhiyan of the government. So there are many government schemes, and some schemes are already operative in pilot level, like the midday meal scheme, using the millet products in Hyderabad and some other districts in Telangana and also in Karnataka, etc. So you can participate in the various government schemes through supplying these biofortified grains as well as the biofortified food products, and also you can help in you can get some funding source through the CSR funds in the name of biofortification. Okay, so Poshan Abhiyan, I already told, it is a government's outreach program for enhancing the nutritional level of the people, a holistic nourishment approach. So you can be part of this Poshan Abhiyan, and there are many other programs like one is called NARI, then another one is Value Addition and Technology Incubation in Agriculture, that is Vatika. I'm not going to the details. And then some Nutri Smart Village. Of course, this is not specifically for the biofortified varieties, but always the biofortified varieties can be incorporated here, so that the outcome from such programs can be further enhanced through developing, the providing more nutrition with the same land, the same investment, the same resources, etc. Okay, so what needs to be done is, so I already told about the development of biofortified crops, biofortified varieties. Okay, so once you develop a yielding biofortified crop, so what next has to be done so that it reaches the ultimate consumer? Okay, so there needs to be proper extension and public awareness about the importance of these biofortified varieties, and on the other hand, there needs to be quality seed production. So you need to rope in the seed production agencies for the seed multiplication and supply of this biofortified varieties to the farmers. So the cropping system interventions has to be there, integrated farming system, the agronomists have to play a role in that. And once the farmer develops the biofortified grains out of biofortified variety, there needs to be proper marketing support. Premium price should be there, which the government has not announced yet, but they are in the thinking of how they can incentivize the farmers who grow these biofortified varieties through declaration of minimum support price, specifically exclusively for biofortified grains. So there needs to be a proper market, and the government can think of buyback policy from the farmers. Then there needs to be convergence for actually mainstreaming of this, because now the biofortification mostly it is confined to a very narrow area. So there needs to be mainstreaming so that it reaches the common consumer, and the procurement by the government agencies is taking place, but not to the full extent now. And different government programs like NFSM, RKVY, ICDS, and midday meal scheme, they can use these biofortified grains, and their your role can be there, that as a entrepreneur you can always catch hold of the government agencies for supplying of biofortified products for these interventions like midday meal or for the ICDS, and the purchase by consumers in the local market. So once the biofortified grains with a specific label that this is the biofortified grain, if it is available in the market, so naturally the consumer will be more tempted to buy these biofortified grains compared to the normal grains. Okay, so there is a long way to go for this biofortification to be highly successful, but nevertheless, already the biofortification is a practical reality in many of the crops like rice. A lot of varieties are available with high zinc content. Wheat also some varieties are available. In maize, beta carotene enriched many hybrids are available, and in pearl millet, as I already told, a lot of hybrids and varieties are available. And in the small millets, already 3 varieties are there, and more varieties will be coming. And sorghum also in the near future will be having some biofortified varieties, which will help in enhancing the micronutrient content in the consumers. I think with that, I am concluding here. Thank you very much.